By the way, have you all been counting the Omer? I'm going to try to remember to do it with you. No, I don't remember. It's okay, but I hope you kind of, if you get our little letter once or twice a week, there is an app that reminds you. I use it all the time. It's very nice. We're soon finished. We're going through this teaching. I mean, for 2-3 years we've been studying on the Yedidei. Now we're doing the book of Hebrews. It's all about learning about how the early disciples lived, how they felt, how they understood things. And the counting of the Omer must have been very special for them. Because it's during that time of the Omer that Yeshua made all of his resurrected apparition. So can you imagine, let's say you're a disciple and the next year, okay? The next year you count the Omer and say, oh yeah, that was the day that he came by the Sea of Galilee and we didn't know who he was, and then he helped us get some fish, and then we ate on the shore. So yeah, that was that day, Or, yes, that's the day he appeared in the house. Yeah, I remember where he taught us this and that. Wow, he says he taught them about the kingdom of heaven. It's like more than 500 people saw him during that time. I mean, it's like, wouldn't you have liked to sit down at one of those classes, from the Messiah about the future kingdom he's going to be king over? It's like, wow. Talk about Havdalah. So there are very important dates. We don't know the exact days that he did everything, but there are still very important dates in the Omer counting that we should remember. The first day of the Omer, of course, the 16th of Nisan, is Resurrection Day. I think that it's the opening of the counting of the Omer. It's like it's really important. Can you imagine if you're a disciple in those days? It's like, whoa. Yeah, that's the day he resurrected. We went to the tomb that day. Yeah, and he wasn't there. Remember, there was this guy standing. We didn't know who he was. It's like, and he told us, hey, don't look for the guy don't look with the dead for the guy who's alive. It's like, whoa. It must have been quite something. The resurrection day. It's like, I felt sad this year that we don't do anything on Resurrection Day. It's a festival, of course, of the 16th of Nisan. It's in the text, but we should remember it as Yeshua's resurrection. We should do something. So it's the day, really, in the Tanakh, we read in Leviticus that it's actually the day where the priest gathers the first Omer of the dog here is just having a real good time scratching its back on the floor and growling. And she's happy, She's having a jubilee. That's what we've been talking about. So, but yes, the first day of the Omer, the 16th of Nisan, is the day when the priest comes and he gathers one Omer, which is one measure of barley, and brings it to the temple, to the high priest, and the high priest waves it to say, thank you, God, for the harvest. That's the day you do that. So, but it is the day that Yeshua resurrected. So maybe I'm thinking, we should, next year I'd like to do something to celebrate it. Maybe we could do something like rise up early to sing and pray somewhere, read the text, and eat barley cakes for breakfast. I looked online, there was all kind of barley recipes, In the evening, you could have a barley beer. There's barley beer. It's like stuff like, that we got to do something we cannot let that day pass and not remembering the resurrection. We put so much emphasis on the 14th of Nisan that we forget the 16th of Nisan. This is ridiculous. You know, it's like the idea is the 16th of Nisan, 14th of Nisan should get a little bit eclipsed by the 16th of Nisan. It should be a great, maybe we should have a big party. You know, write the government, let's have a day off, you know. I don't know if that will go, but last week we had another date that was important. It was Lag BaOmer. That's a date in the Jewish calendar. It's called Lag BaOmer because it's on the 33rd day of the counting of the Omer. And the way you write 33 with Hebrew letters, some of my students will know. You write here, you guess it? Yeah, yes, okay. Lamed, which is thirsty. Gimel, which is 3, not thirsty. I'm thirsty. 30. And Gimel, which is 3. So Lamed and Gimel make 33. So that's why it's called Lag BaOmer. And this is a military victory and a victory of remembrance in for one of the leaders of Jewish history. And it was told by Rabbi Akiva. And it said one way that Jews celebrate it was by making bonfires. You know, there is much, if you can do research on how to do it. You know, but that was last week. You know, Lag BaOmer it's called. Okay. There's another day that somebody decided to celebrate. It was called not Lag BaOmer but Dag BaOmer. Somebody figured out that the miracle of the fish, miraculous fish, after Yeshua's resurrection, figured out when it happened, you know. So they remembered it by calling Dag, not Lag BaOmer, but Dag BaOmer, because Dag, written Dalet Gimel, means fish. You know, the fish of the Omer. You know, so I don't know. So that's something you can do, to remember what Yeshua did during that time. It's a very important time. The Omer is very important. This Monday will be the 40th day. And what happened on the 40th day of the Omer? The Ascension. The Ascension is very important. You know, it's a day, and I'll read it in Luke 24 and in Acts 1. You know, can you imagine if you're the disciples at that time? You remember, the 40th day of the Omer. That's when, as Luke says, Yeshua led the disciples out toward Bet Ani. Then, raising his hand, he said a bracha over them. Now, I want to draw your attention. Whenever it says that somebody raised their hand to say a blessing, it doesn't mean he went like this. It means he said the Aaronic blessing, like the one I just did. You know, this Aaronic blessing was also called the blessing of the raising of the hands. It's another name for it, because you always do it raising your hand. You know, so he did the Aaronic blessing. Would you like to be blessed by Yeshua like this? You know, whoa! Actually, we are. And he said a bracha over them, and as he was blessing them, he withdrew from them and was carried up into heaven. They bowed in worship to him, then returned to Yerushalayim overflowing with joy, and they spent all their time in the temple courts praising God. Can you imagine? All of a sudden he's there and say, guys, well, we're having a good time here, and all of a sudden he prays for them, and disappears in the cloud. Oh boy. They thought they had seen everything, now they see this guy just going straight up. He didn't disappear and then, no. He ascended physically, okay? Physically. It's not imagery talk. He ascended. They were so flipped. They went to the temple to talk to everybody out there. You know the guy you killed? Whoa, wonder what happened. Acts 1 Again, it's Luke that gives us that. Luke was not a disciple, so he didn't see it. Luke was a disciple, but of Paul. So he had, and Paul didn't see it either, because Paul wasn't there. So this report from Luke comes from, I would say, from some other disciples that he met. Okay, because Luke, he wrote the book of Luke, but what he did in order to write his book, after Paul was beheaded and he was finished his service of Paul, he went to Nazareth. He went to Israel, and he talked to Mary. And he got that's why the story of Luke, the beginning of Luke, the book of Luke, is very long on the nativity. He's got more details than everybody else. He talked with Mary, and he talked with the disciples, and he got a lot of stories that are not in other books, So Acts is also written by Luke. So here he says, in Acts 6:11 about the ascension, here's what's written. When they were together, they asked him, Lord, are you at this time going to restore self-rule to Israel? That was the top question. And to be honest, that's still the question. They asked him that in Matthew 24. There's another place where they asked. It's a top question. Are you at this time going to restore self-rule to Israel? Even today, Israel is self-rule, but it has to be under certain rules, So Yeshua answered, you don't need to know the dates and times. The Father has kept this under his own authority. So he says, don't worry about it. So we shouldn't worry. The Master said, we don't need to know dates and times. So what are so many people doing, trying to define them? He says, you don't need. He says, he has kept this alone in his own authority. In another place he said, only the Father knows. I guess as Hashem, as God, it's his prerogative to decide, right? It's his plan, it's his project, it's his prerogative to keep that information for himself. But after he said that, he told us what it is that we need to be concerned about. He said, but you will receive power when the Ruach HaKodesh comes upon you. That will be 10 days later at Shavuot. You will be my witnesses both in Jerusalem and in all Judea, in Shomron, and into the end of the earth. And we see that happening all throughout the book of Acts. First they're in Jerusalem, and I think in Acts 7 they go to Samaria. First they're in Jerusalem and the areas around Judea, then they go to Samaria, and then they go to the end of the earth, I would say, through Cornelius, a Roman centurion, in Acts 10, but also later Paul is all the way in Rome, he goes to Spain and all kinds of places. After saying this, Luke says, he was taken up before their eyes, and a cloud hid him from their sight. Okay, so we get cloud. He went in the cloud. No, and it was not, Yeshua was not digital, went to the digital cloud. No, he went in the cloud. Then a very important piece of information comes in. As they were staring into the sky after him, suddenly they saw two men dressed in white standing next to them. The man said, you Galileans, why are you staring into the space? What are you doing? This Yeshua, who has been taken away from you into heaven, will come back to you in just the same way as you saw him going into heaven. So this is very important, because anybody who claims to be the Messiah, who does not come down from the sky, cannot be the Messiah, period. You know, so many people have claimed, but why don't people read the text? We are told right here that when he comes out, he's going to come back as he went to heaven, tell you the clouds, he's going to come in the cloud. And it's been Jewish teaching all along that the Messiah will come in the clouds. In the Talmud, in the wherever, the Messiah will come in the clouds. This was nothing new. Paul talks about the ascension in Ephesians 4:8 through 10. He alludes to it. He makes a whole, as usual, he makes his whole diatribe and proof text and all that. And then he continues his own subject, which you can read yourself in Ephesians 4. But then he says, this is why it says, after he went up into the heights, he led captivity captives and he gave gifts to mankind. So your job, your homework, is to go to Ephesians 4, verse 8, and figure out where are they quoting this from. Because he says, why? This is why it says, Paul is quoting something. Is it from the Psalms? You look, you know. So it's always good to know that, to realize that this text comes, Paul is giving his proof text from, a lot of it is from the Psalms. So this is why it says, after he went up into the height, he led captivity captive and he gave gift to mankind. Now this phrase, now he's going to explain it. He went up. What can it mean if not that he first went down into the lower part? Somebody who goes up cannot go up unless they went first down. That is the earth. The earth who went down is himself. The one who went down is himself, the one who went up far above all heaven in order to fill all things. So he's alluding to this ascension that he heard from the disciples, because again, he wasn't there. So maybe we should also celebrate the ascension. I don't know what we can do. Maybe we should celebrate the ascension by practicing jumping really high, or maybe using balloons, letting go of balloons. You know, something. I don't know. One thing is sure, is that in that text, we're told that the way he left is the way he can come back. And that's very important to remember. Like I said, somebody who claims to be him, but who does not come from above, from the clouds, is a liar. That's it. So, and then the last day, one of the last days we can remember of, important day of counting the Omer is Shavuot, the 50th day, which is very soon. We might cook up something to do. I don't know. We'll see.
Waiting for the state.
Well, we're waiting for information of